Now in this video, we're going to take our sketch that we had previously drawn, and on a new layer, we're going to start painting in some color, background, value, light, and just really bringing our drawing to life. And now with a angled brush and your shape dynamics on, let's select a really nice dark color and start outlining in our eyes and other very prominent parts of the face. Remember that you can select Tab on your keyboard to hide all your tools and windows so that you have a full canvas to paint on. Now I'm just going to use very strong and dark strokes to start just outlining a few things. Remember to do this all on a separate layer. And now let's just color in the pupils. And now on another new layer, let's start coloring in the hair. Use a nice big brush, make sure that your shape dynamics is off. I've even turned off my dual brush in this case. And I'm going to start adding in some very big brush strokes. Don't worry about putting in any detail. We're going to start our underpainting with big, loose brush strokes. And now selecting the eraser tool, I can kind of erase around areas just so that my hair has a nice blocky outline to it. I don't want to make it look too mushy. That's why I'm going to kind of erase and paint as I go along. And now I'm going to select like a nice blue-violet kind of color tone, similar to something that will complement the beige skin tone that we have on our background. And notice that I'm using one of Photoshop's default brushes. This brush in particular does not have a perfect roundness to it. Rather, it has a very jagged edge. This gives our painting the very painterly feeling that you see me put. Now again on a new layer, selecting a more purplish color, I'm going to start painting in the areas where I think my shadow will be. This part of the face does not get the direct sunlight. Now remember to start adding in some shadow in the neck area. And of course, remember to add shadow around the bottom of the eyes and just around the left part of the face. Again, this part is the part that will be in shadow. Now selecting a very bright, warmish colored hue, let's really kind of punch in some strong highlight in there. But now this isn't necessarily the actual proper highlight, rather it's the brightest part of the face. And I'm going to be painting this on a new layer on top of everything, including the underpainting, the sketch, everything. Now I want to zoom in a little more. that I'm adding in some detail to the face. Initially I was working in very small because I wanted to work in big strokes and think of the bigger picture. Now we can really zoom in and start adding in that detail. And now selecting a very warmish red color, I'm going to start painting in the eyebrows. And now I'm also going to start drawing in the actual eye itself. We're just going to start with an outline and really add some shape and definition to it. In one of the previous videos that I've done for Freepik, you can actually find a detailed outline of how I focused in on painting the eyes. In this case, we're just going to focus on that first, then we're going to kind of move on to the nose, the mouth, and then the whole face. And now let's add in the other eyebrow. Again, keep it very thick and loose. Use your eraser to really define down the shape. Again, remember, on my keyboard, I'm hitting E for eraser and B for brush, so I'm constantly going back and forth very fast. Hotkeys are your friends. I use them often so that I don't really break the flow of concentration as I'm painting. Now I'm going to add in some shadow in my eye area right here. Now using my color picker, I'm just going to add a little more shadow coming out right there. And I'm just going to paint in a few highlights using the color picker. I'm selecting that light color on the forehead and I'm just adding it around the eye. Now let's add some of the highlight on the inner corner of the eye here, just to make it kind of pop. Now I'm going to select from the hair and just using my brush, just add in some lines onto the left side of the eye. Now let's add in a dark brown onto the bottom of the eye. I'm just going to paint around the face here. Just want to start kind of defining the face down a little bit. And now let's select a nice dark blue color and color in the pupils. I'm using a nice big round brush here, just filling it in. And now let's add in some eyelashes. Using an angled brush here with shape dynamics on to give it that nice thin feel. I'm going to use a darker color here and just add in the pupil now and just go over the top, eyelid area of the eye. Just paint over here. We're going to start defining this area. And now I'm going to do the same on the left side of the eye, just kind of start defining it and really adding in those hard, strong lines. And now let's add in some eyelashes and define the entire eye. And now, selecting the grayish tinge already on her face, I'm going to take a nice big brush and start putting in some big thick brush strokes and really define and chisel out and start painting in her face. Now I want to start defining in her cheekbones and also really indicating where the ear is. And now let's darken up the shadow on the left side of her face. I'm going to just color pick from here, and we're going to put more of the left side in shadow. Now again, I'm going to color pick the blue around the face, and I'm going to start giving her defining looking cheekbones. And now I want to select the shadow area again, and I want to define her nose and the cupid's bow right here. And now I want to select the shadow again and add a little dot here on the cleft, and we're also going to add a little shadow down on her bottom lid. Again, I'm going to color pick from here and add in a little darkness to define her nostril area in the nose. Now I'm going to continue adding in some strokes around here, and I'm just kind of going in the same direction as the way the face turns and kind of going with the flow and pattern of her facial construction. Now I just want to add a little more definition to the area where her nose meets her cheek. Now on a new layer, selecting the same dark brownish tinge, I'm going to add in the top of her lip as well as the bottom of her lip, and I'm going to use a lighter color for the bottom. I'm also using a lower opacity for the brush and not really laying it on very heavy, just adding in some light strokes. Now I'm going to add in some more shadow underneath her lip area. And now let's add a little more shadow on the chin area. And just go ahead and really define this again. Then select the blue and let's define the neck a little bit more. And now I want to add a harder, darker edge on the part where her head and her neck meet. Now let's select a similar dark color as the hair and just fill in this area like this again. And now selecting the similar lighter color here, I'm just going to take a big brush and just start, swooshing and swooping toward the right and just really gracefully painting in that highlight on her cheekbone and her nose area. We're going to start pulling out more definition over here. I want to try adding in a little warmth wherever I can. I'm going to select that warm tone on her lips again and just add a little bit of warmth on her neck area right here. And now let's lighten it up a little bit over here. And now let's again add a little more definition around her lip and chin area, color pick around the nose. And again, just use a big brush at all times. And now on a new layer, again with a big brush and a little higher opacity, I'm just going to take some big brush strokes and just define and really just clean up her hair area. I think her forehead is a little too big right now, so I've made it a little smaller. And now we're just going to add a more solid color. Notice how our face is slowly coming together. And now with a slanted brush, I'm just going to start coloring the side of the face. I want to define this area a little more. Right now I think it recedes a little too much into the background. And I also want to heighten her cheekbones a bit more. I really like the way the definition of this is really pulling the face forward just by adding those few strokes there. Already she looks a lot cleaner. Again, I'm going to select around the blue area and just clean it up a little. We don't want the line to be too thick. And now again with a nice big brush, and I'm going to lower the opacity significantly here. I'm going to take these big loose strokes and start just pulling them across her cheek area toward her ear. This kind of motion also indicates the way her face is contouring. And now I just want to kind of straighten out her nose a little. I think it's too curved right now. It looks a little cartoony. And now let's add a little more definition and shadow to the nose. Just by these few strokes, again I'm using a medium-sized brush or a small to medium-sized brush and just adding in that long line that indicates, where the bridge of her nose is. And now let's add a little more shadow near her eyebrow arch, right where the nose and the eyes and the forehead meet. Also want to define the lower lid a little more and give it a better shape. Let's add a little more definition on the top lid as well. Now I'm just gonna add a small highlight here with a bright white brush. I have my shape dynamics on. Just adding that little touch there kind of showed me the direction my light was coming in. It just kind of brings it to life a little bit, even just by putting that little dot there on her lip as well. I think the line on her eyes is a little too thin, so I'm just going to add a slight thickness to it, and it will also bring a little bit more warmth to this area, and almost like there's a shadow where the top lid meets the eyeball. I'm going to add a little more darkness to the left eye over here, again just like the shadow on the bottom lid. I think this cheek is a little saggy right now, so I'm just going to shape it a little better, and I also want to start adding in a little more skin tone so it doesn't have such a strong chalky gray color to it. We want to add more definition right there with just a few strokes. Remember to use a nice big brush when doing this. I think we're done working on a wide canvas. In the next video, we're going to zoom in and I'm going to start adding in more detail on the eyes and the lips and really just start bringing this entire painting to life.